Thank you very much for joining this webinar. First, we thought to hold this webinar in Croatian, but we had a couple of people not from Croatia, and so we decided to go with English. The structure of this webinar will be, just a second for me to share the screen. So I hope you see my shared screen. So this webinar is divided on two blocks. First block is from 10 to 12, and it's more general about NI4OS project and open science, and the other part from 12 till 14 will be based more on the role of national infrastructures and a bit about onboarding services, which the NI4OS is basically about. And in the end, there will be one overview of social science and humanities in the European Open Science Cloud. So we will start with open science and the introduction to NI4OS by Jadranka Stojanovski. Jadranka Stojanovski is associate professor at the Department of Information Sciences, University of Zadar, and a librarian at the Center for Scientific Information of the Ruđer Bošković Institute. She focused her professional work on open science, mainly open access to scientific publications and research data, and the promotion of science and Croatian researchers. Her research interests include scientific communication with an emphasis on scientific publishing, research assessment, peer review process, ethical issues, etc., all in the context of open science. And of course, she's involved in many national and international projects regarding open science and open access. So, Jadranka, are you ready for your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Just a second to share my screen. So welcome to everyone, and we are preparing PubMet conference, which this webinar is part of for 1 year, and we are really excited. This is our first conference we are organizing online, and we hope that everything will be without any technical problems. And also we are inviting you to attend also other sessions. We are offering many interesting sessions during these 3 days. So I will start my the webinar, actually our NI4OS national capacity building for Croatia. We planned this webinar with the main purpose to introduce what we are working on as the part of the project. And my first presentation will be actually on open science in the cloud. Of course, I invite you to ask questions. There is a Q&A area on the bottom of your screen, and you can use it to put your questions if you have some. This is short agenda of my talk, so I will introduce you in scholarly communication crisis. And actually, open science is so broad area that it's impossible in such a short time to speak about each segment of open science. So I will just pass very shortly to open access to the publications, and I will give more focus to open access to research data, very shortly about awards and incentives, because Bojan will speak later on this topic. And what is the position of European Union, especially European Commission as a policymaker, and European Open Science Cloud. And hopefully we will have time to present what we are working on in Croatia. If we look at the different definition of science, we can see that some definitions are focused on science as a process of observation and research. Some definitions are focused on science as a knowledge base, which is growing, how we are collecting the data using scientific methods. And you will find really a variety of definitions of science. But what is present in all definitions is actually that science should be communicated in the way which allow research results and research process to be repeated and to be challenged and reviewed, and in order to validate the research results, or to find out that these research results are not maybe so valid. So in order to be able to repeat someone's research process, scientific results should be communicated in the right way. If we look at the characteristic of scientific methodologies, we see repetition, critical analysis, verification and testing, critical exposure to scrutiny, peer review and assessment as unavoidable part of the research communication. Just to mention that when I will use the term reproducibility, I use this, it's not maybe completely appropriate, but I will use it as a synonym for different terms. Research process can be repeated, can be replicated, can be reproduced or reused in order to validate research results. But I will just use the term reproducibility. Are at the present published research results reproducible? According to the article in Nature, which is quite old now, but maybe I should find, but this is really interesting because on the sample of almost 1,600 researchers, the results of this study showed that more than 70% of researchers failed to reproduce another scientist's experiments. And what is more interesting, that more than half have failed to reproduce their own experiment. So scholarly communication is in crisis, and I just put here the main reasons for that. First is commercialization of scholarly publishing. Publications are behind paywalls, and we are witnessing really high subscription costs. And if researchers want to be in open access, usually charges for article processing charges are very high. The way how research results are reported, it's not appropriate for today's digital age. And results are still reported mostly to journal articles using text as medium and packaged in inappropriate formats. I already mentioned lack of reproducibility. Of course, it depends on the discipline, but and in some area it's 20–30%, and in some area is more than 80% published papers which are not reproducible. We are witnessing also the lack of open research data, and actually public investment in research are not returned sufficiently to the taxpayers, to the community, and also researchers cannot use previously conducted research for their own research. Peer review process is not reliable, and we can see that number of retractions is increasing. Also, assessment processes at national level or institutional level is not adequate, and it's usually purely quantitative, based on quantitative data, number of papers, number of citations, and also prestige of the journal is measured by quantitative indicator, usually impact factor of the journal. It's very important to communicate science with the public and business sector and society as a whole, because the purpose of the science is to improve the life of the community. And for this reason, scientists should communicate with this community. And research integrity is endangered for various reasons. I will not touch this area in my presentation. We should be aware that scholarly communication is not just final reporting on research results in textual form, but it refers to the communication of all segments and phases of a research process. And here I would like to emphasize the importance not only research data, but also used code, methods, and everything, design of the methodology, even literature list, everything what is created or used in different phases of research process should be open and shared. I use this definition, which is made by Foster Community, that open science is practice of science in the way that others can collaborate and contribute, where everything from research data to laboratory notes, etc., is freely available under terms that enable reuse, redistribution, and reproduction of the research, and of course its underlying data and methods. Benefits of open science are numerous. By opening our research, we are improving research efficiency, we are minimizing duplications and wasted research and wasted research results, which never appear even through some journal article or similar type of publication. Open science is accelerating the pace of new discoveries. We are now living in the new normal age with COVID-19 virus and the pressure on commercial publisher to open the articles dealing with COVID-19 was so high that even the most commercial publishers opened temporarily, of course, published content on this topic. Open science is encouraging interdisciplinary research and promoting scientific rigor and reproducibility, improves quality, cooperation, it's increasing scientific literacy of the public, and it's increasing economic and social impact of scientific research. And that's all providing new opportunities for innovation. Research data are, we are speaking about open access to publications for almost 2 decades now, but research data came into focus quite recently, maybe 8-9 years ago. And there are really many documents supporting sharing research data and reporting on open research data and defining some standards for sharing research data. Also, European Commission's Open Data Directive in Article 10 mention exclusively research data, and that all member states shall support the availability of research data by adopting national policies. We are using this article trying to convince the policymakers to make some step forward and to actually create some open science national policies. Sometimes it seems that we are close to this goal, sometimes that we are quite far away. So we are all the time making one step forward, 2 steps backwards. But I hope that Croatia will adopt open science policies soon. Following development and accessibility of research data could be easily done on registry of research data repositories, where you can see, for example, number of data repositories by subject, and leading are life sciences. And also you can see the type of content type for research data, and there are really various types of research data available in different repositories. Still, there are many barriers to making data available. Researchers are afraid that they will lose opportunities to publish based on own research data if they share the data, or they're afraid that somebody can misuse their data. Sometimes they are complaining that they need additional funding to prepare the data for the usage. And of course, preparing the data to be in open access is quite time consuming and requires a lot of knowledge too. And sometimes they say that data contains confidential information or sensitive information, and they don't know how to anonymize, or they think that there are no suitable repository for their data. So different barriers are actually stopping researchers to share more their research results. On the other side, we have many benefits for researchers. With shared data, they will increase transparency, their data, but also their publications and their citations and impact will increase. And they will open the door for new kind of collaboration. Also for institutions, there are many benefits. Institutions with open data repository will really increase trust and credibility and will have greater impact on the scientific community and society as a whole. Of course, here is also reduced risk of publishing inappropriate or sensitive data through usage of a quality assurance process. Funder can see higher value in relation to invested funds. They will avoid duplication. They will improve research quality by requiring from researchers their funding open research data. They will influence to the pace of innovation, more accurate verification of scientific results. And of course, last but not least, benefit for society. Better dialogue between sciences and society, which is really needed, removing some social or national barriers, possibility or to participate in research through some citizen science project. Of course, educated community will assure better public health and also environmental protection. And actually they will see where the taxes are going, and that's really worth to fund more researchers. According to Barrett's and co-authors, there are many, in the paper they categorize barriers in political, organizational, legal barriers, technical, financial barriers to lack of awareness, and we are all confronting each of these categories. Political barriers in our country are quite significant, and also organizational barriers, etc. You will hear more about incentive and award system in the context of open science by Bojan. I will just mention that really changing present rewarding system is crucial for adoption of open science. And we should really move from purely quantitative indicators and this counting, publication, etc., and really look more carefully in the quality of the content, and what is more important, to look how this content is open, in which extent. Still, research output is mainly measured by actually the prestige of the journal, at least in our country, and journal impact factor is somehow the most important indicator, and this should be somehow overcome. So changes in existing promotion and reward systems are really needed. I cited here a few paragraphs from Amsterdam Call for Action on Open Science. They realized that this is actually the first step if we want to adopt open science. Fully adoption open science requires first changes in the rewarding system. The European Commission, it's really strong supporter of open science, and they long time ago they came to the conclusion that investments have been not sufficiently returned, efforts in research and development are fragmented. So they realized that opening all phases of the research process will lead us to the better science, to the open science. Carlos Moedas was the first visionary of open science when he was commissioner in European Commission, and actually he was the main person to put the ground for European Open Science Cloud. Characteristics of European Open Science Cloud is that this is virtual environment. It's based on existing infrastructure. It's meant to use existing infrastructure, not to build the new one. It's user-oriented, provides wide participation in the design and management, and main emphasis are on open and fair research data, social challenges, professional operation of services, new model of scientific communication, and innovative funding models. Many challenges needs to be addressed by EOSC. How to provide access to the data, which are now fragmented, how to handle a really huge amount of data, how to better limited data publications and sharing of data. And I would like to mention here publishing also negative data. How to connect disciplines, they are working in silos, and how to collaborate more efficiently. I will skip this year's role because I'm just need to be on time. So EOSC is meant to integrate data, services, and metadata. And the main goals are to establish trusted environment to store, manage, and reuse the data, open research data and infrastructure to enable pan-European cooperation, interlink people, data, and services, and provide fair and interoperable data which will enable interdisciplinary research. And just very shortly, what we have done in Croatia, we have many, I always mention, we have many bottom-up initiatives, but we are still missing national open science policies. So we have DABAR infrastructure with almost 150 institutional repositories. We have Croatian scientific bibliography with also repository functions. We have great success, our portal for Croatian scientific journals, Hrčak, with more than 385 open access journals. We have databases like Who is Science in Croatia, repository and scientific equipment, and really heavily use a national database on research projects. Our future is bright, and we have two really important projects which will support strongly open science. One is Croatian Scientific and Educational Cloud, and other one is Croatian Research Information System at a national level, which will be fully open. Thank you. There are no questions, as I can see.
Well, we can take questions maybe after your next presentation. Then
Yes.
we can put Q&A in action.
Yes.
Later. Is it fine, or?
Yeah, I wanted to suggest that maybe Bojan can present his presentation, and I will present NI4OS before the break.
Okay.
That's okay.
At the end.
At the end of the first part, yes.
Yeah, okay. Just a second. Sorry, just a second to call Bojan.
Yes, oh, I can continue. Alan, it's okay.
Yeah.
I can continue. I will try to be.
Sorry, Bojan is here, but
sorry.
I think he's struggling with the microphone or something.
Hi.
Oh yeah, he's here. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah, Bojan, could you please present your slides, and then NI4OS presentation will be at the end of this block.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Just share my screen.
Sorry, and Bojan Matson is head of the Center for Scientific Information at the Ruđer Bošković Institute. He has a PhD in Information and Communication Sciences, as well as a graduation diploma of Information Sciences Librarianship and Croatian Language and Literature, all from University of Zagreb, Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences. He published around 20 articles in international and domestic journals, and as well as 2 book chapters. He was and still is a collaborator on many international and national projects also regarding open science and open access. His interests are related with scientific publishing, open access to publications and research data, bibliometrics, evaluation of science, research information systems, and implementation of new technologies in libraries. So Bojan will present some parts from our report regarding rewards and incentives for open research data management and FAIR. So Bojan, it's your turn.
Thank you. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, yeah. Everything's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Hi everyone. I will talk now about incentives and rewards, as Alan mentioned. This is part of our activities in NI4OS Europe project, and Jadranka already mentioned our project and what we did there and what we'll do there. And one of the tasks from that project is task 4.1, which is talking about developing rewards and incentives mechanisms for open research data management and FAIR. Ruđer Bošković Institute was the lead of this task, and our goal was to define the set of incentives and rewards which could be implemented to make live ORDM and FAIR in general. We did that on the basis of the current analysis of the current states of open research data management and FAIR in NI4OS Europe partner countries, as well as on the basis of existing recommendations and initiatives worldwide. Our results are published as a deliverable already, deliverable 4.1, incentives for supporting open research data management and FAIR. And you can find the full text of this deliverable on the Zenodo repository. Jadranka mentioned all the benefits of open research data to various stakeholders, to researchers, research community, to research institutions, funders, the whole society. It's normal that there are many benefits for practicing open research data, but we have to have in mind that practicing open research data requires time, and this time is sometimes for researchers very hard to find, and not all researchers, actually very little researchers, will practice open research data management no matter what, even if they will not be rewarded for this. But the majority of the community, unfortunately, needs some incentives and rewards for practicing open research data management. And this is why this task is very important in the context of our project and in general in the context of research data and open access to research data in general. We started with the analysis of the current state. As part of the NI4OS project, the landscaping study was done in the work package, under the work package 2 activities, and we surveyed various stakeholders from all 15 NI4OS partner countries. And those stakeholders were divided into 5 groups. We had policymakers, researchers, consumers of research, supporters of research. These are the supporters mainly of the huge infrastructures, and also open science facilitators. On the slides, you can find a number of answers from those stakeholders. Altogether, there were like 1,170 answered questions, and analysis of all the questions will be done as part of the task 2.1. Task 2.1 already published their deliverable and with partial analysis of the results, and you can find this deliverable also on Zenodo if you want to find something more about the whole landscaping study. And I was here just show few important results which we got from that landscaping study. And these results are related to open data and open access. First is this graph, which shows us the importance of certain parameters for evaluating of researchers in all 15 countries. And as you can imagine, research publications are most important for evaluation of research activities. Also, project participation and attracting external research funds are very important and very valued. While open science activities are at the very bottom of this graph, like software, open science and open access, social outreach, transfer knowledge, citizen science, they are not yet valued in the current evaluation systems. This is one huge challenge for us, and that's why we have to define incentives and rewards, how to value those activities more, and to push researchers and research community to practice open research data management more actively. Second graph is about institutional support and training provided in NI4OS Europe partner countries. And we can see that the participants who answered to this question are very active in education about open access in general, about repositories, intellectual property rights, and open practices, but not as much with open science and open data. Open data are it's not quite new, but newer than open access movement. And that's why we still don't have in place many training for open data, open research data management and FAIR principles, but many partners are planning to do this kind of training. This graph shows what do the people think what is very important for open research data management and FAIR to come alive, and they agree actually that almost all offered area of training are very important for open research data management to come to start be practicing more. And the last graph is about the importance of open data and open science related contents according to our support respondents. Support respondents are the institutions which are supporting infrastructure for open access and open data. And they actually think that all the concepts are very important, but the most important ones are few related with financial resources, because to maintain and develop infrastructures, it's very important to have finances behind it and to have enough staff. So this is very important, but also, and this stuff will also provide support to the wider community. So you have to have specialists who will be able to provide support to the infrastructure, but also to the wider community. And now I will summarize a few very important incentives and rewards which we emphasized in our deliverable. We have 10 of those incentives and rewards, and the first one is, we think, maybe even the most important one, to enforce open research data management and FAIR through policies. Upon our experience, and probably the majority of countries partners in this NI4OS Europe project, policies are very important for researchers and research community to start practicing certain activities. If you mandate for all researchers to put their articles in and their research data in open access, or else they will not have some benefits, all researchers in this part of Europe will start to do that. So we think that the first step is to have a clear and strong policies which will enforce open research data management and FAIR. These policies should be also related with research assessment and career advancement, because this is the most important thing for researchers, but also for funding research or granting projects and stuff like that. Second very important thing is assessment and promotion criteria on all levels. It's related with the policy, but we wanted to emphasize it even more by putting it as a second point, where we think that open research data management and fair activities should be taken into account when assessing researchers, projects, institutions, or whatever else is assessed. We have key actors for every point, but in majority cases, they're the same key actors: policymaker, research performing organizations or higher education institutions, and funders in this case. Third point is support for data infrastructure. It's infrastructure is very important. You can't mandate something if you don't have infrastructure which will allow researchers to comply with your mandate. So you have to build the infrastructure, and you can't build it without any financial support. So it's very important for funders and organizations to support and finance building and maintenance of data infrastructure and all other open science infrastructure. Fourth point is increasing skills, capacity, and awareness. It's all about education. So you can't mandate something if you don't give help desk to those research community and researchers who need your help. So you have to educate them. You have to have a help desk. You have to point out good practices, give them know-how, and everything connected with that. So actually, open research data could be practiced by researchers. Many researchers have doubts about sharing their data because of the fear that the data will be stolen, someone else will take credit for it, or they will not be mentioned, they will not get any benefit from it. And this is why we think that we should enforce ethics and research integrity as well, to spread the idea of all the benefits of research data, and to change mindset of current of our research community. Sixth point is providing support. It's also about support. Education is support, but also providing other type of support to research community is very, very important, either by the funders, either by the publishers, or by research performing organizations. Sorry, just a second. Seventh point is actually a challenge for the whole community. We still don't have a proper dataset attribution. We don't have consensus how which type of research data should be attributed and described with metadata. We still don't have citing and metrics mechanisms in place. Metrics is very important because you will have to, and you will want to measure activities related with research data, and therefore you will need some kind of metrics. But we have to be very careful with metrics, because very often metrics are misused, and you end up with very bad practices like we have it now with impact factor and research assessment of researchers. That's why we should talk, the community should talk and go to the consensus about which research metrics are the best for research data and open science activities. Eighth point is use of certification schemes. As part of NI4OS projects, some certification schemes will be developed, and we think it is very useful to certificate everything, to certificate infrastructure, to certificate open science policies, data management plans, fair compliance of the data infrastructure. This is help to service providers also if we make some kind of certification which is made according to best practice, and we say, okay, all repositories are having research data should have that, and that. And you can check if your repository is compliant with all that requirements, and then your repository will be certified according to this certification scheme. We wanted to emphasize also sharing of research infrastructures, which we think it is very important. We know that in Croatia and in other countries are also the case that researchers have some very important research infrastructure in their lab, but they don't want to share it. And then if anyone else from another institution or from another department wants to use that infrastructure, they can't use it, and they have to either buy a new infrastructure or find somewhere else where he can buy this service. That's why we are forcing now in Croatia all research organizations and researchers to share their infrastructure, to transparently put information, what do they have, under which circumstances can this infrastructure be used, and to offer this infrastructure to other researchers and research institutions. It is also good to offer infrastructure because you will spread your collaborator network, and you will very likely got some kind of new projects because you have this research infrastructure in place which you can offer to this project. So this is also important. We think that all countries should, and policymakers should think about forcing institutions and researchers to share their research infrastructure more openly. And last but not the least, we recognize the importance of publishers. Publishers of research papers, journals, books, and all other publications. They are a very important piece of the puzzle for dissemination of research results. And we are, as a research community, now we need them very much because we have to publish our research papers. But they could also shift toward the more open science and more, they could shift to research data and publishing of research data alongside with the research publications, which is good for them, but also good for the whole society. Transparency of their publishing practices should be improved, and they should also enable text and data mining and develop interoperability with all the other open science infrastructures. But we think that they shouldn't just stay put and preserve the situation like it is today. We think that they are a very important partner in changing the landscape of future science, and they can enforce open research data management and fair, and be a very good player in these activities. And this is my last slide, where I would just want to say this, that as a part of participation in NI4OS project, all partners and all partner countries should adopt their open science policy. Our ministries did give us their blessing to be partners in this project. So we already have contacts with our ministries, and as a result of these contacts, we should have in few years open science policies in place. But we have to be very careful with that. What will we put in this open science policy? What kind of open science policies will this be? How hard will it be? And will it mandate or not some things? And we have to take into consideration our national context, the maturity level of our open science infrastructure, and our other specificities. So the policies should be tailored according to every country's need. This deliverable is just one small help for developing the national policy, but we hope that that it will be useful for especially for developing the incentives and rewards to prescribing which are the incentives and which are the rewards in these national open science policies. And it's not enough to adopt open science policy, you have to monitor this policy. You have to put monitoring mechanisms in place, because otherwise it will be dead letter on the paper. This is Croatian expression, I don't know, it's lost in translation probably. So thank you for your patience, and hopefully if you have any questions, please contact us. Thank you. Alan, we are ready.
Yeah, thanks, Bojan. So if someone has a question, okay, we have one question in Q&A section. So Bojan, Irena Vipavc-Brvar asked, I like the content deliverable you are presenting. How do we make ideas you are proposing really work? A lot of decisions changes will not be only changes of policies, but will have financial implications as well.
Yes.
So what about financial implications?
We are aware of financial implications, and these activities are also very time consuming. But that's why we also mentioned funders as very important actors in this play, because funders should give us financial support, either through projects, either funders are also our institutions. So every research performing organization and higher education institution should help their researchers to put open science in place, help them through financial help, but also the financial help is not all. Also, the support is very important, but that's why we noted that support to research infrastructure is very important, support to specialists who will do the education and stuff like that. So it's not easy stuff. It's not easy task, and that's why it's not in place yet, almost nowhere. And we still are only depending on the research publications. But the goal of European Commission and the goal of science in general is toward opening of research data, toward opening of science. And this is a process. It will not happen in 1 or 2 years, but in phases through the next probably decade.
Okay, thanks. I think, yeah.
Alan, if you allow me to add to what Bojan explained into Irena's question, maybe we can also think to reallocate some funds. We are already investing not in the best way, so it's we should think how we are actually allocating our funds and for research, and maybe disseminate funds in a smarter and better way.
I agree with Jadranka, and just to mention that I even think that Croatia is on the right track with some bottom-up initiatives like developing DABAR infrastructure through collaboration of institutions which are already established as institutions which support open science in general. And we are now developing the central infrastructure which is free of use to every institution. So this is one of the things you can do in every country, to develop central infrastructure and not to force every institution to develop their own repository, to educate their own specialists and experts in the field and stuff like that. So it's challenging and slow, but it could be done, I think.
Okay, that was only one question, and okay, one more short. In your personal opinion, for the single researcher, what do you think is the best reward or incentive for the researcher to share his or her data?
The best reward and incentive would be to count this sharing of research data when he or she will go in career advancement. So now we are counting only publications in a very strange way. We are looking at the impact factors of not papers, of journals, and transposing that to the paper published in that journal. But the better way would be to take a look at the research data they shared. Are they openly available? If not, why not? Because not all research data could be in open access available, because you have some sensitive data and stuff like that. And it should be evaluated to the researcher, because it's very time consuming to prepare your data for open sharing. That's why that's why researchers mainly don't do it, because they need lots of time to arrange their data and they will get nothing for it.
Yeah, I would also have to take into account the quality of deposited, archived, and published data. Yeah, okay, thanks. So that's all for now from questions. Well, I will now present the FAIR principles, and Jadranka will present NI4OS at the end, as we agreed. So my name is Alen Vodopjevec, and I work here at Ruđer Bošković Institute at the Center for Scientific Information from, I don't know, since 2004, and I've been working on institutional infrastructure and national infrastructures, and I'm also participating in various projects regarding open science and open research data. So I will shortly present you these FAIR principles and maybe explain why we were doing this report about rewards and incentives. Just to share my screen. Okay, I hope that's it. Jadranka, sorry, can you see my presentation?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So, fair play in the scientific playground. There is a long tradition of research data sharing. Well, I found one paper from 1985 where it said that does this appear to be the right time for those of us responsible for the training of future generations of scientists to introduce into our training some activities designed to inculcate the hallmark norms of science, including data sharing. So, in this paper, 87% of respondents said that they would share their data on demand, and 59% claims that their colleagues were not willing to share the data. So someone is lying, let's say. There was a difference between the social sciences and biotechnological fields, where researchers from social sciences thought they are losing the race with time, that someone will produce more works on the same data, etc. And in biotechnological fields, there was some financial concerns regarding patents, projects, etc., etc. That was in 1985. Why we think that data management and curation is important? Data, when we have data archived and accessible, we can use it, we can validate the results. Of course, we are lowering research expenses by reusing the data. We are speeding up the research process, reporting made easy. We can saw in these Corona times, for example, that if we had data accessible, we could speed up the research process and we could validate the results, because there were many papers published with not so good analytics and so on and so on. So the accessibility of data is very important to validate and to review those results. Of course, it's also speeding up this research process and to get to the final results. Of course, you are getting more impact when your data is accessible. There are some good practice examples. Says Eric in social sciences, for example, is the European Association of Social Science Data Archives. We have good examples in genomics, paleogenetics, astrophysics, meteorology, and this famous example about human genome sequencing started in 1990. In 1996, some laboratories were thinking about patenting some bits of human genome. So in 1996, they created Bermuda Principles, where they agreed that everything must be available and freely shared among the community. And in 2003, the project was successfully finished very, let's say, quickly because of this data exchange. When we're talking about fair play in the science playground, we are talking about developing the infrastructure, implementing policies, acquiring new skills and competencies to be able to manage data with having these FAIR principles in mind. FAIR principles, the acronym FAIR is from findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. I will just shortly walk you through. To be findable, it means that metadata and data are assigned to globally unique and persistent identifiers, that they are described with rich metadata, and they are registered on the indexed in a searchable resource. So, of course, they could be findable. To be accessible, it means that they are retrievable through standardized way, standardized communication protocols online, etc. The protocols should be free and universally implementable, and metadata also should be accessible even if the data are no longer available. To be interoperable, it means that the data could be exchanged between the various systems. So it uses the common language, vocabularies, and include qualified references to other metadata. And at the end, the reusable thing. Yes, all letters are important, but I always like to stress this reusability. Because the metadata and the data should be richly described with all relevant attributes. So documentation should be good. It should be released with accessible data licenses. So other people could use those data and reuse it, mix with other data sets and so on and so on. And of course, it should be associated with data provenance and meet domain relevant community standards. So the reusability means that you can have large data sets, you can have plenty of data, but if this data is not well documented, then it's like you don't have nothing. And this reusability, we'll see later, comes with some skills and competencies. So in the long run, in one relatively recent 2018 paper, the same thematics like in 1985, yeah, they said that it's the right time to encourage sharing data, encourage publishing negative results, promoting open science. So it means that we are still on the same level. So we have to move a bit forward. In this paper also, there are a few things that Bojan also said and that we put into the report while analyzing on the other side. These are changes in awarding and advancement systems in science. It's promoting open science principles and raising the awareness on the benefits in general of the sharing research data. Data citation, and of course, funders policies. In the means of the infrastructures, on the technical part, infrastructure, I think it's mature enough and well developed. Okay, it will evolve, but in this findable, accessible, interoperable, we have these disciplinary repositories, platforms, international, institutional repositories, and so on. But we still lack this organizational part, policies, of course, but if you're talking about this fair and reusability, then it's important to acquire new skills and competencies to be able to manage data having fair principles in mind, as said here. Because data curation is important, and you cannot just put the data online and leave it be. You have to prepare the data. So what Bojan said, it takes efforts and time for the researcher or for the or for data services or someone else who is curating this data. NI4OS landscape study showed that we are not very familiar with the FAIR. Supporters are more familiar, but funders or open science facilitators, consumers are less familiar. You can see all the survey results on this URL. So there is NI4OS. NI4OS should spread the EOS and FAIR principles in the community and train it. And we have this open research data management and FAIR tools and certification schemes in mind. So it's about implementation and the adoption of tools, standards, and guidelines, delivery of these tools, harmonization and interoperability, certification schemes, and elaboration of incentives to support ORDM and FAIR, which Bojan already shown. So playing fair, it's not about cooperation versus competition. It's about using them both, but in a just right amount. So we can say that we have to restart the science, because it's not about the number of citation impact factors. It's not about the survival of the fittest scientist. It's about the survival of the planet in general. So yeah, I think I should stop here and should not go deeper in space. Thank you very much. And if you have some questions, you can put them in Q&A. Just to stop share, yeah. So I'm here. If you have some questions, please, you can put it in Q&A now or later during the next presentation. Okay. Jadranka, could you prepare, please? Yeah.
Once more, hello to everyone. And maybe we forgot to mention, but all presentations will be online soon after the PubMed conference finished. So you will be able to find the presentations on PubMed website or also on NI4OS website. Now the part on national initiatives for open science in Europe, or shorten NI4OS, I will present you how the project is organized, what are the main goals and main activities, and maybe I could put subtitle everything you wanted to ask about NI4OS and you didn't dare. You have now the opportunity. Sorry. European Open Science Cloud, as I mentioned, it have the main role to ensure for European researchers to reap and to harvest the full benefits of data-driven science. And as we have almost 2 million European researchers and 70 million professionals in science and technology, EOSC will offer to all of them free, I will not use the term single point of access and use, but we are aiming to be as single as it's possible. In the focus, it's the access to the research data and to the research results and to everything a researcher could need for his own or her own research. It's easy to access and it's available via user-friendly interfaces. So project, the name I already mentioned, and it's just technical information about the project. You can find this. 22 institutions for 15 countries are included in the project. So from Croatia, 2 institutions, Ruđer Bošković Institute, Center for Scientific Information, where we work, and we have also very good collaboration with our colleagues at the University Computing Center at University of Zagreb, SECE. So they are inside the project, they are more in charge for infrastructure, and at Ruđer Bošković Institute, we are more in charge for support, and we are actually NI4OS node for Croatia. NI4OS actually aims to embrace, on one side, operators of services for research and technology, and on the other side, open science community and infrastructure into one well-functioning community. The mission of NI4OS is threefolded. First, NI4OS is really providing support for development of national open science cloud, and we really hope that during the duration of NI4OS project we will manage to actually have a national open science policy in Croatia. And second mission is to spread EOSC and FAIR principles into community and train researchers, and not only researchers, but all stakeholders, and provide technical and policy support in onboarding of the service provider and services which already exist, and services which will be built in the future. Based on this, three main pillars, there are five main objectives of NI4OS Europe. So first, I actually can't see my, because I have this, sorry. Okay. Actually, first objective is focused on support in order to build a national open science cloud, and maybe it's in some countries it's a long process, and as I mentioned before, in Croatia we are so one step forward, two steps backwards, and with the last government we were closest to actually enable a national open science policy, and open science was present in the new in the draft of the new law of sciences, higher education, but then government changed, and our job somehow starts all the time from the beginning. So it's really important to build open science cloud, a kind of national open science cloud in Croatia, and to put actually all institutions who are creating or maintaining different services and infrastructures together to collaborate. As a main objective, NI4OS have also to facilitate the federation of existing infrastructures. We always, when we look to our neighbors in Slovenia, we always envy them how they are well organized, and we are not. And it is true that in Croatia we should still work on collaboration, which is much wider, deeper, broader, as you like, and actually to put everything we created and we are developing together and help each other, and in order to be much more successful. Because infrastructure, without infrastructure, we could not realize the next objective, which is enable EOSC relevant non-commercial services to be acquired to the EOSC portal. And this is very much in the focus of NI4OS Europe to provide technical support to service providers and to help them to become active service included and offered on European Open Science Cloud. Also, NI4OS is providing technical, organizational, legal guidelines, tools, certification schemes to support open research data management, and related to this objective was also our task and our deliverable Bojan presented to you 20 minutes ago. NI4OS is committed to ensure the engagement of targeted communities and to support these communities to provide different kinds of trainings. So, for example, the training we are participating now, it's a part of this objective. As an organization of activities following very quite simple methodologies, so we started from the mapping of national open science cloud landscape, and this part was done by a colleagues at the University of Belgrade who did really tremendous work collecting information from all countries and analyzing this information and reporting on that. So based on that, there are second and third phases defining policies, support thematic, generic and thematic providers. You will, in the second part of the workshop, you will have opportunity to hear in detail how onboarding of the one thematic service looks inside the NI4OS project. NI4OS is organized as, yes, as many projects have a work package 1 is management and work package 7 is communication, marketing, sustainability and innovation. Then we have work package 2, EOSC national initiatives and policy support. The part of this was this big landscape done by our Serbian colleagues, and VP6 user engagement, training and demonstrators. Between work package 2 and work package 6, we have 3 gears. Work package 3, which may aim to federate and onboard existing infrastructure and services. VP4 focused on open research data management and standards, tools, certification schemes, and VP5 service provider, integration, onboarding, and service maintenance. EOSC is intended to strengthen national open science ecosystem, and I will not go in details here. So actually in every country, this cultural, economical, political situation is somehow different, and we should always adapt to the situation which we have in and try to be as smart as possible, and actually to provide support for building sustainable open science cloud at a national level. Actually, NI4OS presents the most extensive attempt to capture open science in the region, and yes, now it's every work package presented with different phases and different outcomes, and it's important to mention that outcomes which are mentioned are available in open access, and you are really free to use, and we invite you to use it and to check it and to see if it can be useful in your own work. So after first year of activities, we had 3 deliverables, and quite well established EOS collaboration at the level of the project, and also at the level of each of the 15 countries with partnering institutions. So I will not talk much about onboarding, because you will listen about that in the second part, but actually to onboard some existing service for researchers, it requires a lot of pre-activities to assure that what will be onboarded to EOS, it's satisfying all requirements. Regarding procedures and policies, NI4OS Europe provides everything on its wiki page, where are policies, policy template, and procedures for services. NI4OS use multiple categorization of services. It's quite complicated, and every service is assessed by a different kind of professionals. One type of professional is assessing technology readiness level, and also we have the EOS integration level and management integration level, and actually different characteristics are assessed during this 3 kind of grading each service, and it's quite complex, and sometimes we in the countries like Croatia, we have good services, but it's difficult to get high technology readiness level, because, for example, we don't have, we are not providing help desk or different things which are actually not free. So sometimes our enthusiasm is not enough, and we really need also financial support for developing a certain service to the level which is satisfying requirements for inclusion in EOSC. User engagement, outcome of this activities is already mentioned: NI4OS wiki pages, categorization of services, and hierarchical organization. I will skip the slides about services because I have only 1 minute on disposal, and just to mention that services which we aim to onboard could be really very different. Here are 3 examples. For example, service for filtering, clustering, and visualization of chemical compounds, which are used in drug discovery. The second service is coming from social sciences and humanities, is digital culture heritage repository, which offers also integrated visualization tools. And the third example is actually huge database with georeferenced scientific data, but it's also visualization tool are offered, and not only visualization, but also post-processing capabilities, and it's about climate data, which is very relevant. So, Alan, we are out of time, so I suggest that I stop at this point.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jadranka. So, are there any questions in the Q&A? There is currently no questions. Maybe just one that came into my mind, because like Irena asked earlier, so there's always a problem of the money. In your opinion, is it possible to, because we will in NI4OS project also, we'll have some policies, proposals, changing the way how science works, and so on and so on. Is it possible to change the money flow? Do you see some parts where it could be maybe taken or used for this part of implementing new open science regarded policies? Do you think, is it possible or not?
Yeah. Yes, it's a very good question, but honestly, first Irena's question, I knew that we have money which we are allocating to huge commercial publishers and paying huge big prices. But when we are speaking about building infrastructure and providing support for services, then it cannot be done without governmental or institutional financial support, very specific. There is no, I don't see any money which is available.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks. So I would like to invite our attendees that they come back after this break at 12, because we'll have some real-world examples of the current infrastructures that University Computing Center is participating in and developing, and also a real example, as you said, of the onboarding one service, and from our colleagues at Ruža Bošković Institute, as well as a presentation of EOSC in general and social science and humanities in the EOSC by Marijana Glavica. So please come back. See you in 20 minutes. The webinar will stay open. So I'll be back in 20 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we can start. Emir, are you here?
Yeah, I was throwing some jokes there, but I didn't realize that I have to press unmute.
Okay. Well, great. So we are starting with the second part of this webinar. As I already said, we'll have 3 presentations, more focused on the infrastructures, real-world examples, and so on. First is by Emir Imamagic. It's about the role of national e-infrastructures in open science. He will talk about projects and initiatives, etc., where University Computing Center is involved. Emir has been working at the University Computing Center for 15 years in areas of high performance computing, distributed and cloud computing, and system management and monitoring. He participated in building national infrastructures such as Croatian National Grid infrastructure and collaborating with international infrastructures such as EGI. Currently, he is the head of Computer Systems Department, head of High Performance Cluster Isabella, and member of international projects EOSC Hub, NI4OS Europe, and EuroCC. So, Emir, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. So you already heard everything, pretty much covers also my presentation. So I will try to be on time. As you heard, I'm mainly infrastructure guy. So I was giving a role of presenting the role of national e-infrastructure. I will try not to repeat what was said in the previous session, so I'll just try to build up on what they were saying. And so the content of my talk looks, okay. Is the shifting working fine, Alan? Let's hope it is.
Yes, it's fine.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, brief description of what the infrastructure is, or how do we see it, and then a few words about us as a national coordinator and leader of many infrastructure projects for many, many years, longer than those 15 that I've been around. And then I'll focus mainly on the infrastructures that we provide and that are important in the research data lifecycle. Some of them you've already heard before, and finally I'll mention some of the international collaborations that we are participating in together with various partners in Croatian research community. So here's the image which I got from my boss from the ERG. So what's the e-infrastructure commons? So basically, the idea is you've heard before about the EOSC, about NI4OS, where we are promoting open science, and then there was a question about the money, about the infrastructure. So the infrastructure commons, the idea is that we build something that on top of which you can build higher level services. So the infrastructure commons is basically stuff that the sysops and ops guys like me do. So it's network connectivity, connecting all the resources that we have, then providing two most important things, data and computing infrastructures. And then finally, on top of that, building tools and services. You've already heard before, when you're onboarding, you need to provide support, because the resources themselves, if you do not provide some kind of a support, they are basically worthless. So the infrastructure commons is something that you need, and on that you can basically build your sciences, create some of the data, and then finally store the data, share, and start practicing the open science that was mentioned in the previous talks. So in the end, I will mention some of the infrastructure projects that are happening in international level and European level that we're participating. But first, let's start with us. So SRCE, let me give me a second. Okay, so the SRCE is a computing center, basically, two computing centers currently. Our main goal is to provide reliable digital services and access to the most modern ICT equipment that we can provide to you. Second thing that I already mentioned, what we do is the education. So the digital services themselves are useless if you cannot properly support your users and so forth. Okay. Yeah, okay. So as you can see in University Computing Center, they gave us these chairs that go around. So I was shaking. I'm sorry, I'm not on the boat. So finally, the third and most important thing is the knowledge, expertise, support, and cooperation. So whatever we do, we try to cooperate with all the partners in Croatia, and research community and education community as well. Right now, CERTI provides around 50 different services, so I will not be presenting all of them. There's about 140 employees. We are constantly looking for more of them. Just today, a new guy came in my room, is sitting here, getting used to the technologies that we have. So as I mentioned, there's 2 data centers which allow us to give you 24/7, 365 availability. So most of our critical services, if somebody drops a bomb on here, the other one will just automatically switch on. Recently this year, besides for the virus thingy, we had an earthquake and we had 0 failures on our services during the earthquake. Also, it was shaky for the boxes here. So it's basically the computing center that tries to provide the infrastructure comments that you've seen on my previous picture. Okay, what's going on? Okay, so I'll focus now on research data cycle, data life cycle, and the concrete infrastructures that we as a CERTI provide, in some cases together with other partners. So one part is the computing infrastructure, which covers, I will not explain the data life cycle because I assume that you probably heard it. So the computing infrastructure that covers parts where you create, process, and analyze your data. So this is basically where the modeling and analysis occurs. And then for the second part, the data infrastructure and services where you preserve, publish, share, and reuse your data. I guess these are the things that you're already familiar, so I'll just briefly skip through them. And then the other user expression that I really like is that a bright and shiny future. So I'll mention 2 projects that are in progress. One of them entered crucial phase just a few days ago. So the future is indeed bright. So this is my area of expertise, but I'll try to keep it short. So I guess at some point in your life, you've heard about supercomputers. They're pretty cool. They allow you to run modeling and simulations that would take you years and years on your laptop. So HPC cluster Isabella has been doing that since 2002. Since then, as far as we are aware of, it was used in preparation of over 200 publications. Right now, so the current incarnation provides 140 teraflops, which isn't much if you look at the top 500, but it's still significant research that we provide to the whole Croatian research community. Right now, it's used by 118 projects, and last year we basically covered around 2,500 CPU years worth of user modeling, simulation, and analysis. We also, as I mentioned before, we provide regular user workshops. Other than providing just all these teraflops and boxes, we have around 3,000 CPU cores. We have 12 GPUs right now, which doesn't seem much, but it's, yeah, let's say equally powerful as those 3,000 CPU cores. But other than just bare metal stuff, we provide a bunch of user applications, which is really important because you have scientists coming along, they want to get their Nobel Prize, so they just want to analyze, and produce valuable data out. So we have 50 scientific applications ready for them from various areas like chemistry, biology, physics, math. Most of the people, both of the other panelists are from Institute Roger Bošković, so they are, I can say already, they are our biggest users there. So with the GPUs, we provide the infrastructure for machine learning, and that's about it. Other than HPC, we provide another resource, which is basically cloud-based, so it's more flexible. It's not only about computing; it allows people to provide to establish some custom systems, such as systems needed for big data analysis through PyLab notebooks, which are quite popular in data analysis, RStudio, and then basically any kind of system that has a functionality of elasticity, so you can just spawn your own VMs based on the load in the system. Other than that, so I'll mention later on that we participate in European projects. So the HTC cloud is connected to the EGI Fed cloud, which is part of the EOS ecosystem. So let's say HTC cloud has already been onboarded on the whole EOS train. On all these, I provided links so you can find more information. Now, first part of the story, bright and shiny future, is the HRZO, or Croatian Scientific and Educational Cloud. So it's not a zoo. It's a bunch of resources which should cover the infrastructure needs for foreseeable future, where foreseeable is 5 years, like in some old systems. Anyhow, so what are we planning to do with this? This is a European funded project. It has been going on for quite a while now. I apologize for this 8. Got some weird fonts. So the project started 2018. There was a bit of a setback, but we are proceeding well. And this project has been extended for a bit, but not for too long. So what is the idea? The idea is to build e-infrastructure which will be sufficient for all the research and educational needs. It will provide advanced computing capabilities, so the HPC that I mentioned. So we are basically raise the order of magnitude of all the stuff that we currently provide. So in the HPC, we are going over 1.2 petaflops. So as I said, right now we have around 140 teraflops. We are hoping that this 1.2 petaflops will reach somewhere close to 2 petaflops, and this thing will also have 1 petabyte of high performance storage. Anyhow, it should be something that is sufficient for modern data analysis needs. It should have a bunch of GPUs, so it should cover emerging AI, machine learning needs, and so forth. So this is the HPC part. The HTC part, again, is going to grow for the order of magnitude, also get some GPUs there, and right now it has 150 terabytes. We'll have 2 petabytes storage for virtual drives. And then there's the cloud computing, so the high scalability computing. So this is basically the infrastructure that allows you to run services that require high availability, so something which is critical. We will provide enough resources for you to run around 2,000 virtual machines in high availability mode. Also, there's going to be room for 1 petabyte of storage, and then finally, there's going to be storage provided as part of HRZO. So 30 petabyte of file and object storage, which will be used. We are expecting by the data and data services that I will describe in the following slides. And there's also plan to have backup. And of course, we need LAN infrastructures that will support all of these things. So moving on from computing to data. So you've already heard about Daber. Sorry, you haven't heard about this one. So PUH. It's a relatively new service that we provide, and it's not, as you can see on the right side, it's not in part of the preserve, public, share, reuse. It's still in a part where you're analyzing data. So the idea is that you use this thing to store and share stuff that are relevant to you, but you want to share it during your research or education. And also its support to be, is one of its goal, it's to be integrated with the e-learning system. So if you have a large amount of educational materials, you can basically unload it on this service. PUH, it provides a reliable service. Right now it has limits of 200 gigabytes per user. It's based on the Nextcloud, so you get the whole deal, the web interface, desktop client, mobile client, and also from the HTC and HPC resources, you can basically attach it as a local drive and then access the data directly. It supports users groups which are necessary for sharing. So you can say these and these people can access my research data, share it, and analyze it, and so forth. DABER was already mentioned, so I will not talk too much about it. So it's a national platform. In that sense, it's a very interesting thing for the EOSC. So it's a platform that allows others to onboard their repositories, so define the rules of the game that are relevant to them. You've already heard that we have almost 150, so it's right now the number is 142 repositories in there. The DABER supports all kinds of different objects, so the papers, books, abstracts. Then it has research data. I'll mention that in the next slide. Right now, it has stored almost 130,000 objects in it. In any sense, this is a crucial and very good example where you set up a infrastructure which can be shared by others. So they maintain the metadata, they define the rules of the game, but we as infrastructure experts maintain the infrastructure itself, so you don't have to think about all the gory details that occur underneath. So as I mentioned, there's the fair that you already heard, so I will not repeat that part, but I mentioned the research data sets. So I think one of the first ones that we onboarded in DABER was a very nice collaboration that we had with the Ministry of, I don't know their name in English, but it's Ecology and Environmental Protection. So they had a really nice project where they had to prepare a document to how to adapt to climate changes. So we participated in it as part of this whole project. They purchased one huge HPC resource, which we host, which is hosted now in CERTSE, and is actually shared as part of the Isabella. And then they did the calculations. They got their they ran their models, and they got the forecast and all kinds of different weather forecasts for following 50 years. And based on that data, and there was about 220 terabytes or 250 terabytes of data. So basically raw data that came out of those simulations, which were ran over around 2,000 processor cores for about 2 years. So that whole data we onboarded sort of on DABER. And then there are other research data sets which were onboarded in the meanwhile as well. So that's again the current status of the data services that we provide. And then there's the bright future again. So the CRORIS is the national CRIS being implemented by CERTSE for the Croatian government. It's part of the technological foresight project. So it's basically it's going to be information system that will store everything about Croatian research. So the projects, publications, so what kind of equipment we have, what kind of institutions participate, events, and so forth. So the whole idea is that this system will provide a ministry with all the necessary information to make educated, or let's say good decisions on where to invest money, what part of the infrastructure we need to build up, what do we need to replace, and so forth and so forth. So right now, you've heard we did the analysis of the needs and other stuff as part of the NI4OS project, but this information system is going to be very important, you know, to provide clear picture. How does the Croatian research landscape looks like in any given time? It will, of course, be connected to international platforms. So again, with all of these systems, we always try to participate in international projects, European projects, where we try to align with others and be as open as possible. So my last slide, you've already heard a lot about EOSC and NI4OS, so I will not repeat that. I will say that we participated, so Alan mentioned that we participated in building the grid infrastructure, which was a buzzword before cloud, sort of. So ever since we built that national infrastructure, we connected it with, at that time, it was EU data grid, then later on it was EGE, then it grew into EGI. and we continued participating in all of these EGI activity. And the latest one that is still running is the EOS Hub activity, in which we connected the before mentioned HTC cloud infrastructure, and we also provide with as part of the operations team that handles the monitoring of things, which is pretty much the similar thing that we do in NI4OS. As Jadranka mentioned, we SEPCE as a partner does a bunch of things with data, which is handled by a different team, but my team handles the ops side. So somebody, I forgot, I think it was Alan or one who mentioned that onboarding stuff onto EOS is not enough. You need to constantly monitor things and ensure that the level of service is constant and consistent, and that the people are happy with it, and that's where we come into picture. So we developed together with the partners from France and Greece the monitoring system, which basically tracks down the availability of services. So I think the next talk will be about onboarding. So I think Dale mentioned something that once you onboard things, you actually have to be able to monitor it in order to say that it's actually working with this level of availability. So that's part of the EOS Hub. Again, on the data side, SEPCE is RDA node. Is representing Croatia as RDA node. So it's basically a global organization that promotes and supports data sharing. So again, I didn't maybe emphasize that much on the data part, but we always push for the open sides, and you will see that there are open licenses on my presentation here. We participate in RDA, and the latest thing that started just a few days ago is the EuroCC project, which is part of the bigger initiative, the EuroHPC, where is the idea, the EuroHPC, I don't have a logo, unfortunately, I didn't have time to put it on, but the EuroHPC is a bigger initiative, and Croatia is participating in it. It started a few years back. So the EuroHPC is all about building HPC capabilities in Europe, and basically make us concurrent, to make us let's say compatible or being able to compete with Japan, China, and US, top 500 wise. So the EuroCC is one project which has similar goal like NI4OS. So the idea is that we are going to build national competence centers for HPC. I can't talk too much about it because it just started, but the idea is to, again, sit down in one place and create a platform for all people who are doing something with HPC, so they can share what they know and offer it in more transparent way to industry, to SMEs, to the government sector, and not only just to research. And of course, to make the similar connections with the national competence centers in other European countries. And that's it. Questions? I need to find, how do I find the chat? So Irena is asking, do you have a solution for metadata from different disciplines, not only storage space? Can you say something about licensing of material that will be uploaded / distributed? As I said, I am not that familiar with DABER. But DABER itself is a framework that allows you to create your data repository. So it's not that we do not give you just like 100 terabytes of storage space and then you put whatever you want on it. PUH allows you to do that, exactly. So you just get the storage and you put your files in whatever format you want. But in case of DABER, you apply your own metadata on the data that you upload on there. With regard to the licensing of materials, I have to be honest and say I have no clue. Ivan might be able to jump in and cover this one.
Sorry, I was trying to find in the chat or Q&A session the question, but I cannot get it.
So I'll read it again. So the question is, do you have solutions for metadata from different disciplines, not only storage space, that I covered? And then can you say something about licensing of materials that will be uploaded/distributed?
Well, we provide neutral platform, and in the case that Emir already showed with the Data Hydrometeorological Institute, probably you can in this use case see how they treat the licensing issue. They transfer the license that is in CCY, I think, code that is let's say decided by European community that is larger. So basically, in a sense of DABAR, we are trying to build an open licensing model, but we can host, probably Dražen can say, but we can host also different version of licensing around data.
Yeah, I forgot to say there's going to be a whole session of this. So I think the best would be to participate in that session and ask question to Draženko directly, who will cover it.
I wanted to say that tomorrow afternoon there is a Zagreb session I think is moderating, and it's about connecting the publishing platform with the DABAR. I think it's connecting national OA publishing platform with national data repository platform. So there will be plenty of stuff regarding licensing and metadata. So tomorrow afternoon, please check the program. Okay, thank you, Emir. Yeah. Yes, Ivan?
No, I just want to repeat what you said, Alan. On the last slide of Emir, there is in the right down corner, basically the nice wording. The devotion of CERCE is, of course, to have open access and open educational repositories made on DABAR, but we are just hosting national repositories, and it's up to repository managers, administrator to define the policies. And of course, in a sense of open science, we are promoting the use of open access policies. That's all we can say.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay, thanks. So we are ready for other session. Davor, Tomislav, are you ready? Are you here?
Yes, we are here. Yes.
Okay. So you can just share your screen or something. Davor Davidović and Tomislav Lipić works here at Ruđer Bošković Institute. At Ruđer Bošković Institute, and they're in Center for Informatics. So they will present what does it mean to be EOSC compatible and how to onboard one service. So, guys, the floor is yours.
Okay, do you hear me, Alan?
Yes, everything's fine. I can see the presentation and I can hear you.
Okay, I'll start. I see here okay, I'll try to minimize this first. Okay, thank you for a nice introduction, but I will have to correct you because I'm not the part of the Center of Informatics. I'm part of the Laboratory of Machine Learning and Knowledge Representation, but it's not a big mistake.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And okay, so my name is Tomislav, and together with my very dear colleague Davor, we will try to demystify how to jump into this EOS train, or we can say, what does it mean to be EOS compatible? In the first part of this presentation, I'll try just to introduce you with some general overview. And afterwards, Davor will give more exciting examples of the onboarding. So before we start, of course, we have to introduce some terminology and get to the same page. What is actually this EOS, or the European Open Science Class? It's actually just some vision of Europe, or where we want to integrate different resources, especially data and the services in one federated infrastructure. So different actors, mostly researchers, but then also the industry actors can participate in this whole ecosystem. So how this is actually done? Well, EOS is supporting the different kinds of European projects, and the Ruger was part of this project for a very long time, and these are some recent ones. So one of the, you can say, mastodonic project, like very large project that has 100 partners from 53 countries, is EOS Hub, actually also mentioned by Emir, and we are also the part, it's in this project. Actually, the Center of Informatics is, and which as like the very big project tries to reach the vision of EOS by simplifying access to the broad portfolio of research products or research services, remove the fragmentation between these services, and actually consolidate all of the capacities and capabilities and improving service quality of different research services or more. The role of the Ruđer Bošković Institute in this project is actually integrating and adaptation of the computing services for the digital art and humanities needs. Another more, and maybe one more thing to mention, that this EOS Hub project is actually ending pretty soon. One more recent project is the one that we are all met here together, is National Initiatives for Open Science in Europe. As opposed to the EOS Hub project, it's more involved towards, as the name says, the more national initiatives where it wants to connect smooth onboarding to the EOS by, we can say, more specific group of the services from the Southeast Europe, and to enable these services more accessible to the broader communities. The role of the Ruđer is here more creel towards the, you can say, it's smart specialization focus from the Ruđer Bošković Institute, where it's biology, bioinformatics, and the health, where we are onboarding different specific thematic services from Ruđer Bošković Institute research groups, and one of those are, and most of those are bioinformatics related. And Davor will tell you more about that later, where some very popular service is onboarded into the EOS. So just to contrast also this availability of the services, all of these services can be seen or accessed or searched through the different portals from the EOS Hub portal or the web page, and we can also complement it to the portal of EG services, where we can see that EOS is more focused in some we can say top-down approach, where we ask communities what they deliver, what we develop. For example, our research group developed some service and want to give it to the community, where AG actually is also building some founding foundational services, more or less. But how to actually become the part of the EOS is actually described in this so-called onboarding procedure defined by this NI4OS project, or defined by the EOS. In that, it's actually illustrated in these 5 steps. The first, if you want to include it, you actually want to send a request to some dedicated form, and then upon this request, all the relevant information is gathered in some portal specific data templates, and according to that, this resource is integrated in something that is called pre-production environment, and upon that, the resource is then validated by different tools in pre-production environment, and then after that, the service is published in something that is called as catalog. So this is the last fifth stage of the onboarding, is the publication. Oh, so this slide maybe looks pretty much complex, but it actually wants to show that the process of these 5 steps is actually facilitated by different kinds of the procedure. Actually, all of the documents and templates are already available for the researchers who wants to register their service. So they actually have to make it easier for the researchers to do it. And after that, all of the framework is actually in situ and already prepared how this description of the service should be integrated, and then this integration is validated upon within this framework, and afterwards the post to the EOS publications is submitted. So basically, the procedure is simplified by the different accessibility of the already available data templates. Okay. Before Davor continues with more concrete explanations and with more concrete examples, I will also give you the broad perspective. What kinds of different services that they can be onboarded, or they can be the part of this initiative, you can say. Well, actually, this onboarding and different kinds of services are actually defined with this kind of hierarchical structure, you can say, where at the bottom of this structure you have some foundational services that provide some basic requirements that are needed for the service. Another type of the service is generic service. Davor will show you the more concrete example of it, but generic service is something that common, that is shared by some other more high-level services. And the thematic services are more connected to some actual research question or the methodology, and upon that are the repositories, or actually the data that can be generated or be used by those services. And before I end, I will just mention also that besides the different types of functionality and the different types of their relationship by different kinds of services, we can also classify the services according to their integration levels. What is actually very interesting, and I think that implicitly, or maybe we can say explicitly, even Emir said that if we want to have the ideal EOS service, we see here in this picture, I don't know, four different colors and with the different levels of integration. The ideal EOS service, actually marked here with the blue or light blue, needs to have something that we call we can say some higher level management services. So it has to reach the levels of management integration level. So what does it mean? It actually means that, for example, you want to incorporate some services like, let me remember, for example, is incidents and service request management. So you have management, how to track the incidents in your service, or you want to have some customer relationship management. So you can track who is using your service in what kinds of the means and things like that. And and what you can also see in this picture is actually that having something that is probably very well known in the infrastructure communities. I'm not from that community. I'm more a data scientist. It's those that is called technology level readiness. So it's not enough that you have TRL 8 or TRL 7 to be actually have a good or medium level integration with the rest. Okay, now I will give the slide share to the Davor. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomislav. I'm just to share my screen. Okay. You see my screen? You can hear me? I suppose silence is yes. Okay. So, Tomislav,
yeah, everything's fine, Davor.
Okay. Okay.
I couldn't find my screen here.
Just to be sure, that happened to me a couple of times that I start speaking for 5 minutes and then said somebody, oh, nothing, that we cannot hear you, something.
It's fine, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So Tomislav gave you an overview of what is the onboarding process. I will try to give you a more detailed overview through the few examples of the services that are planned to be onboarded and the services that are already onboarded and what is precisely was done, how this process evolved. So Tomislav mentioned in the previous slide, there's generic services. So just to go back to these generic services and the candidate, but which kind of services can be a generic services? So that's mostly services that Emir already mentioned that CERTSA offers to a national research community. These are HPC resources. So this is a bare metal. So the computer, so the computing power that you need for your analysis, for your simulation, for your data mining, for whatever. Then the second is type of services that we call generic services are the cloud infrastructure. So these are the virtual machines that can offer you, that can be offered in 3 different ways, but it's not the focus on this presentation right now. But this is also kind of services that you can ask for. Then there is a generic storage and different data management services, from the repository services for data search and discovery, like some more advanced applications, and then platforms like Hadoop, which can be offered on demand for your large data analysis, different data analysis services that exist today, and etc. These are all generic services, and they're called generic because they are not strictly bound to any science discipline. These are the services that are usually, that can be used as it is, but they are usually integrated in some higher level services like a thematic services. So example of the thematic services which are planned to be onboarded in the EOS Federation from the NI4OS project. I just give a 3 examples, 3 services. First is the Chem bioserver from Greece. The service for the filtering, clustering, and visualization of different drug compounds, and mostly used for the drug discovery and new drug discovery, and trying the different combinations. The second is the digital cultural heritage from Cyprus. It is a repository which not only the store data, but also provide the different visualization tool that allows you to visualize and interconnect, to see interconnection between the data stored in the repository. And there is also live access server that is a server for storing climate data, offering the georeferences of data, and of course some different types of visualization. So these are existing services, as Tomislav said, mentioned this technology readiness level. They are all in TRL 8 or 9. That means that these are services are already in production. So they are tested, they have users already, they are online. And these services are the best candidates to be part of the EOS Federation. Most of the services what's planned to do is to integrate with some generic services, like for instance, repositories and this climate server, which actually need the data storage, is planned to integrate with existing storage services. For instance, CanView servers is planning to go with the HPC resources. The other example is the example also from the NI4OS. It's a Revigo service. It's hosted at RBI. It's from the Department of, it's hosted by Department of Electrical Engineering. Thomas is actually working with that department. So this is an example of a thematic service. If I go to a link. So Revigo is a very popular service. It started as it was a result of the scientific publication in PLOS ONE from 2011, which is the service actually, if you provided the list of gene ontology terms, the service in the background summarize and find the common subset of all these terms and try to visualize in different ways this common subset of the so it's kind of a compression of a long list of gene ontology terms. This was a very good accepted paper in the scientific community. And although the service is up and running, so it's at TRL 9, it missed some basic requirements that EOS Federation requires from the services to be fully EOS compatible. For instance, in this service, some basic things like terms of use, user manual, privacy policy are missing from the, so that they are still not implemented. So that's the things, that's like a first step that's gonna be integrated inside the service to be one step closer to be EOS compatible. Also, it will be included in the EOS catalogs. That's why the service will receive this PID number, and also will provide the training resources so that new users so that the online trainings or the trainings can be organized so the people have a shorter time curve of learning how to properly use the service. Also, the foreseen integration with core services. The first is, as Emily said, the help desk system. So it's one and the first thing that you definitely should be integrated with. So instead of doing your own help desk, or currently is done via just sending an email and said I have a problem with the server and so, there will be a part of the help desk service that will be integrated service of the help desk, not only for the Revigo, but also for the other EOS compatible services that the user will just send an issue and so what's the problem, and then the issue will be resolved in the background. Also, you need the proper monitoring and accounting of service, which is also be integrated with existing EOS and NI4OS accounting and monitoring services. And the last thing is this publishing of the service, which is planned to be through the EOS marketplace, which is show you at the end. It's like the main visibility point for the most of the services that will be integrated. Also, there are some basic service, so the generic service integrations, including high throughput computing and the data storage that can also be used, but this is still on the discussion. Should we move to and use the other platforms, because currently the service is using the infrastructure and hosted at the Ruđer Bošković Institute. Okay, the second service is the or the integrated services is the Daria Science Gateway. It was developed during the EGI Engage project that's part of the Daria Competence Center. It started in 2015. It's a web-oriented portal that hosts various services for the research and scholars from digital art and humanities. It started as the part of the Daria Eric. The services that offer semantic and parasemantic search engines, DB8 Cloud, Simple Cloud Access, there's different small services integrated in one gateway portal. How the portal was through the EOS Hub project integrated. So first we go for the cloud hosting. So instead of local hosting, we choose to go with the cloud hosting in the EGI Fed Cloud. Then we integrate with authentication. So so to access our service, you don't need to, you have to register, but you don't need to register making a new account. Then you just go with your Edu HR, so you home account if you are from Croatian research community. And so it's part of EduGain. So basically any research community and any identity provider that's part of EduGain can access the service. We also use a cloud storage. The gateway is published on the marketplace, and we integrate different EOS integration levels, so like a help desk, counting, monitoring, and etc. These other services. So just an example of the services. So the sub services provided through the gateway. One is this semantic search engine. So for the keyword you apply, you want to search, it's searched through some other repositories like Europeana or PubMed, and just give you the search record, and then you can go where this, for instance, this particular paper was published in Herchak in one of the repositories from the system. Okay, the next service is DB8 Cloud. It's a 100-year-old database of Baran dialects from Austrian-Hungarian monarchy. It's collected and hosted by Austrian Academy of Science. So the user can browse, search, and download the records that are in, and they are all hosted on the cloud infrastructure. The other one service is an example of generic service, because as I said, it's not bound to any specific discipline, but is very useful in the art and humanities, but in also other disciplines, all disciplines that need interactive data analysis. It's called EGI Notebook. It's a very handy service that that allows you to use Python, R, Octave, or Julia, or there are plenty of other data analysis platforms that you can use to interactively analyze your data. So you don't need to install anything. So if you go to the service, So you can go to access to the service. Let me see, I think it's a wrong link, but so you can make an offer of the service and you will get an access to a service. Okay, I go the longer process, but never mind. So you can choose some configurations on the number of cores, number of RAM, the storage, and you can ask for a service. Okay. It's much easier to go this way. Yeah, but live demo is always not so good. Okay, but basically you can, what you can get, you through your browser, you can, you get an access to a interactive notebook, and you can use your Python-based data analysis in the cloud without need to install anything on your local machine or local host. And last but not least is the EOS Marketplace. Its idea is of this marketplace is to be one-stop shop for the EOS compatible services. So in this marketplace, you can file all the services that you want, but that are on board to EOS. So if you go to the link, so you can, I'm already logged in with my my EduHR, so my RBI account. So you can use yours as well. So you can log in, and then you can search for the services through the marketplace using a branch of science, like you want humanities or natural science, or the categories. Also, you can go, if you go to portal home, you can choose a different, so you wanna search for a computer, data management, process analyzing, let's say the process analyzing, and then you will find different services that are already offered through the service. Let's take a look at this open air mining service. If you go to the service, you can see some informations about what the service is about. Then you have some document like a term of use. It's one of the prerequisites of onboarding the EOS Federation. And you can, in this case, because it's an open service, you can go to a web page and it redirect you directly to the service. So there is a plenty of other services you can explore and search by through the, as I said, through the research area, or through the, like what you want to do. You want to analysis, you want to store, you want to share data. And that's more or less from our side, from the examples. There are also links for the Daryak. So I mentioned Daryak service, Daryak Science Gateway. It's also published here on the EOS Marketplace, and you can get information and access the service from here. Okay, thank you. That's from Tomislav and me.
Yeah, thanks guys. Let me see, there are no questions in the Q&A, but let me ask just one question. Do you have some kind of, I don't know, statistics or something about the usage of those services? For example, which disciplines use more, or maybe some characteristics of the users, or something like that?
You mean for a particular thematic service or something?
Yeah, well, which is more used? I don't know, Python notebooks or I don't know, these virtual infrastructures, or
You cannot compare
is there
Python.
yeah.
Alan, you cannot compare Python notebooks because, or EG notebooks, how it's called, or actually it's a Jupyter web server that is deployed on EG infrastructure, because they are more general purpose services where, for example, digital humanists, social scientists, and bioinformatician can use these kinds of services and also getting the right infrastructure, okay? It's actually pretty common to the Google Collaboratory. If you are familiar with it, you can get Google infrastructure, also get the GPU and execute for example, your own models. But if you are talking about thematic services, of course, bioinformatics services are more used because bioinformaticians are more active research communities than, for example, social scientists in this open science cloud or these communities. So, but we actually don't have particular statistics for each of the thematic services. What we only know is just the Revigo has just article of the Revigo has 80K views, but I think it's used daily. It's used daily by 50 users at least.
Alan, that's a very, very important question, and that's part of the onboarding procedure.
Yes.
So as everybody, as you've probably seen in the part of the onboarding procedure is to have help desk, to have monitoring, blah, blah, but there's also the accounting. And that's the most important part because you have to show how is the resource used. So in case of the notebooks are using FedCloud, and FedCloud has accounting sorted out within the EGI. So the EGI has an accounting for storage for HTC resources, which are more what Davor was calling generic. So it's basically, they're just looking at the CPU hours, which is a common thing that you're looking on an HPC resource. But right now we are going towards solving the problem, what is a accounting on thematic service? Because it's not only CPU hours, so it's not, there's no trivial issue. And that's why the whole accounting is something that's being part of the process of onboarding things. So there's no magic solution for everything.
Yeah, it's actually connected to these integration levels that we mentioned. If you remember, these blue marked positions. So it's not enough to get TRL 8 or 9. You have to get to these management services, and these management services includes also this accounting and also management with users and things like that.
Yeah, that's why I asked others currently some statistics, because yes, I know it's
hopefully after the project. Maybe in the middle of the project.
I know the troubles with I don't know statistics of the institutional repository. I don't know, visits, downloads, and some relatively simple things. And when we come to this, I think it's pretty complicated. Okay, so I think we can move.
I see the comment from Irena. She said that we'll probably know more after her talk. Because she commented in the chat. Okay.
Mariana, yes. Mariana will say something about that. That's why I want to go further. So our next guys, thank you very much. Our next presenter is Mariana Glavica. So, Mariana, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, just a second to present you. So Mariana will present this, as she said, ambitious vision of European Open Science Cloud from the perspective of social science and humanities. Mariana Glavica works in the Library of Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities in Zagreb, part-time of her work is about development and maintaining the library information system, and the other part of her work time she is around the development of the data archiving infrastructure, and behind her there are few EU projects with CESDA ERIC members, and currently she is leader of the Croatian Data Archive for Social Sciences, and she also has a great role for the Croatian membership in CESDA. So, Mariana, let
So
me see
I'm trying
if
to
you
share
can
my
share your
screen,
screen.
but not to share my notes.
Okay.
And let me try this again. So maybe like this. What you see now? Do you see something?
I can.
Now.
Yes, we can see part of your screen presentation.
Great.
Now we don't see anything. Now we see. Okay.
What do you see now?
Yes, I think. Yeah, that's the presentation.
Okay.
Without
Great.
notes.
Great. That is what I wanted to achieve. I'm fiddling with my window manager, which is a bit unusual.
Yeah.
So let me go to my first slide. Okay, so as Alan said, my name is Marijana Glavica. I come from Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences of the University of Zagreb, and I'm currently an acting head of Croatian Social Science Data Archive, which is a service provider for CESDA ERIC. So the main aim of this presentation is to inform the participants of the webinar and my colleagues here working on the NI4OS project about the progress made last year on the issues of Croatia's inclusion in large European research infrastructures. So my focus will be on research infrastructures in the field of social sciences and humanities, because they are all active now in Croatia, and simply because I know more about them. So my focus will not be on all this European infrastructure. I will not talk about all social sciences and humanities projects that are contributing to EOSC, but just about this few. But I do invite you to find more information about them on EOSC portal. So first, when I say large European research infrastructure, I actually mean the infrastructures on the S3 roadmap. So I will say a few words about that. S3 stands for European Strategy Forum on Research Infrastructure. The S3 roadmap is a strategic document produced by S3 every few years. The last one is from 2018, and the new one is being prepared for 2021. This is an important document because financial instruments of the European Commission for the development of research infrastructures in Europe are developed on the basis of what is written in S3 roadmap. So to be included in the roadmap, an infrastructure has to go through a very thorough evaluation and selection procedure. The roadmap includes S3 projects that are new research infrastructures on the way to implementation, and also S3 landmarks, which are successfully implemented research infrastructures. It also describes the broader landscape, such as EOSC, for example, of research in Europe. So S3 claims that all previous S3 roadmap updates proved to be very influential, and that they provided good strategic guidance for member states and associated countries' investments. And this can be said that this is true for Croatia. So that's why I am giving such a long introduction, because this is about policies, and this is also about financing. And we touched in one of the questions before, we touched this question about financing, on how to finance all these efforts. So in all previous research and innovation strategic documents in Croatia, the importance of S3 infrastructures was emphasized. Currently, the new strategies for Croatia are being drafted, the content of which is not yet known to us, but we have no reason really to believe that S3 infrastructures will disappear from the strategies. So Croatia is currently a member in 5 S3 landmarks, and they are all in the area of social sciences and humanities. Also, we are part in 2 S3 projects, and one is in analytical physics, and the other one is in fusion research. So 6 of these infrastructures are actually ERICS, and that is the European Research Infrastructure Consortium. This is also important from the legal and organizational point. And this ERIC is a specific legal form that facilitates the establishment and operation of research infrastructures within European interest. So countries can become members of such consortia. There is a fee to pay and some obligations to fulfill for the membership also. So ERIC is then organization. ERIC is a legal personality. So with the capacity in all EU member states and other partner countries of the ERIC. It has tax exemptions, it is enjoyed by real international organization, and it has a firm governance structure, etc. There are some advantages of being ERIC. You can see that in most of these infrastructures that I am showing on the screen are ERICs. In my following slides, I will continue to present 5 S3 infrastructures that are present and active in Croatia in the field of social sciences and humanities, or social and cultural innovations, as this is called in the S3 roadmap. All of these infrastructures are receiving support from Croatian Ministry of Science and Education, and all infrastructures can now employ 2 research assistants or 2 postdoctoral fellows, or a combination of those 2. And some of them have already done so. So this is a huge push for our development. This is really important for us and for our futures. So in addition to that, we also received a budget. 4 infrastructures received a budget from the Ministry of Science and Education, and 1 from the Ministry of Labor and Pension System through European funds. So what are these infrastructures? The first one, and this is the infrastructure that was Croatia was first membership in Daraya HR was so Daraya is the first Croatian research infrastructure. It's a part of Daraya EU infrastructure, and it's about digital arts and humanities. Daraya promotes tools and best practices and advocates open access to information and free sharing of research results. Croatian Daraya HR, is very active and well-known infrastructure already among Croatian scholars in the field. It connects institutions and individuals by organizing workshops, forums, roundtables, and conferences, and it also coordinates project applications. You can see more details about the infrastructure and link on my slides, but I will not go into details about any of these infrastructures. So the next one is Clarin, or HR Clarin. And Clarin makes digital language resources available to scholars, researchers, students, and even citizen scientists from all disciplines. It is focused on the humanities and social sciences, and all these services are available through single sign-on access. Clarin also offers long-term solutions and technology services for deploying, connecting, analyzing, and sustaining digital language data and tools. HR Clarin is committed to further develop the existing Croatian language resources and tools in accordance with Clarin specifications, and incorporates them to the Clarin ERIC infrastructure. This is all to help researchers and other interested stakeholders to process text in Croatian in notably easier manner than before. So the next infrastructure is European Social Survey. And it's well, as in title, it's a survey, and it measures attitudes, beliefs, and behavior patterns of diverse populations in more than 30 nations. So it's a very huge cross-national survey. It is an academically driven cross-national survey that has been conducted across Europe from 2001. So it already has a long tradition of collecting data. And what is important is that all this data and documentation from the survey is freely available. So the next one is SHARE. It is also a survey. It is also the large survey effort, and it is a survey about health, aging, and retirement in Europe. It builds a multidisciplinary and cross-national panel database of microdata on health, socioeconomic status, and social and family networks of individuals aged 50 and older. SHARE in Croatia is considered as a project of crucial importance in implementation of evidence-based policies regarding pension system reform, improving the efficiency of Croatian labor market institutions, etc. Also, all data and documentation from SHARE is freely available on their website. So here is CROSDA, and this is the service or infrastructure that I am responsible about together with my colleague. So I will probably spend a bit more time on this. CROSDA is Croatian Social Science Data Archive. It is a service provider for CROSDA, for SESDA infrastructure, which is a consortium of social science data archive in Europe. So together with my colleagues, Alen Vodopjevec, who is a moderator here, Irena Kranjec, and group of very enthusiastic researchers, we were trying to come to this point of establishing a data archive in Croatia for quite a long time. So some of you maybe have heard about our efforts. As you could see from the example of SHARE and European Social Survey, social science data are valuable resource that can be shared, and it is a well-known practice among researchers in the field. So data sharing is usual practice among the researchers, and this was like that long before we started to use the term fair. So data collected through the national service, for example, contain much more information than can be published in a single scientific article. Also, comparative research in the field of social science can bring new insights about social phenomena, and this kind of research is possible only if previous collected data are available. Nevertheless, data sharing in social sciences is not an easy process because most of the data contain personal and sensitive information. The whole research process, including the data itself, has to be well managed to ensure no risk environment for research participants. This is achieved by paying special attention to legal and ethical issues during data collection and also later during sharing the data. Also, in order to be reused, the data set has to be well documented. Social science data set is completely useless without extensive documentation about meaning of variables and codes. Detailed information about the methodology and the policies of conducting the research is crucial because in the social sciences there are so many factors that can influence and confound the results. This is research on people, and people are really messy. So social science data archives come into the picture in that context to give support to researchers who want to or have to in those days share their data. Social science data archive exist around the world, so similar data archives exist around the world for several decades now. The role of the data archive is to ensure the long-term preservation and dissemination of science research data. So now I want to come back to connect two acronyms in the title of my presentation. So I've talked about S3, and now I will try to connect S3 research infrastructures to EOSC. That is the European Open Science Cloud. This is the main theme of this webinar today. So for a broader picture, it is useful to cite a few sentences from the EOSC declaration. So the implementation of the EOSC is a process, not a project. It is an iterative process, and it is based on constant learning and mutual understanding. The EOSC should incentivize the reuse of existing building blocks. A major part of these existing blocks are already developed in S3 infrastructures. EOSC declares that research infrastructures such as S3 should be the steward of the community of standards. So the European Commission is providing financial support to implement EOSC by means of projects under the EU Framework Programme for Research and Innovation. On this picture on the slide, you can see the various past and ongoing projects that are contributing to the development of the European Open Science Cloud. And among them, one is called Connecting S3 Infrastructures. For the context of this presentation, it is interesting to note that the availability the available funding for this project, for this connecting S3 infrastructure, is considerably higher than for other projects. There is a link to this picture on the EOS portal slide, so you can see for yourself. So one in the area of social sciences and humanities, which is financed through the call for connecting S3 infrastructures. There is one project called Social Science and Humanities Open Science Cloud. there are almost 50 active, a little bit less than 50 currently active Horizon 2020 projects that contribute to EOSC, and SHOC is one of them, with the aim to bring many services into EOSC from the specific discipline of social sciences and humanities. As NIOS, for example, is trying to do the same or similar from a given geographic area, namely Southeast Europe. So here we can see a lot of space for collaboration. One of the interesting efforts that is developed in SHOC project is the SSH open marketplace. We have heard about EOSC portal marketplace in a previous presentation, and so the SHOC project is building something similar, but for social sciences and humanities. So this will be a discovery portals, and it will harmonize all the SSH tools, services and software, data sets, training material, activities, which can be workflows and scenarios. So this will be specifically tailored for social science researchers and communities. So for the last part of my presentation, I will just give you a few examples, few randomly chosen examples, I would say. Tools, examples, so tools, services and resources that are built for social science and humanities researchers. It is just to give you a glimpse of what is already available and what you can expect in the future to be a part of this ambitious EOSC initiative. On this slide, you can see one tool, which is developed by Daraya consortium, or more specifically by working group of Daraya, which is a group for ethics and legality in digital arts and humanities. So this is a tool to manage data protection in humanities. As we already said, for social sciences, this is also very important for humanities to pay attention to legal and also to ethical issues. So here is this tool that can help researchers to formulate consent forms. It is called Consent Form Wizard, and you can see how it works later. I will leave you the slide and the links. So another example, which is still not part of SSH marketplace as I know for now, but it's interesting because it's developed by a Croatian team, the team who is now coordinating HR clearing infrastructure. So this is the EU presidency translator. And it is a multilingual communication tool that allows MPs, journalists, translators, and visitors of the Croatian presidency of the Council of the EU during the first half of 2020. So this is a past time now, to access information in the Croatian language and thus bypass the language barrier that the Croatian language could pose to them. The promise is that the tool will remain available to all users after, and now this is already after the Croatian presidency, and here is also a link in a presentation so you can see it for yourself. Another interesting tool, just to mention and to give you a glimpse of, is QA My Data, a free, easy to use open source tool that provides health check for numeric data. It is developed by the UK Data Services, and it is very nice because it uses automated methods to detect and report on some of the most common problems in survey or numeric data, such as missingness, duplication, outliers, direct identifiers even, so you can do your first round of anonymization with it also. The next one is already present on the EOSC portal. You have seen this this image in a previous presentation. So this is a snapshot from EOSC portal, and this is a SESDA data catalog, which is already listed there, and it is a one-stop shop for search and discovery of social science and humanities research data. There are many more tools I would like to show you, but let me show you just one more, because this is a service from Finnish Social Science Data Archive, and it offers online data discovery, deposit and download service. Also access to research data from the social sciences and related fields. And I'm showing this service because our service, CROSDA, it also aims to develop something similar to this data service portal. And this will be all for me, and I'm ready for your questions.
Thanks, Mariana. We are waiting for Q&A section. Questions in the Q&A. And until then, what do you think? What about CROSDA? Will we onboard CROSDA?
Well,
also?
Well, as it is shown here in my last slide, I hope we will onboard the whole service. We have this example of from Finnish Social Science Data Archive. So this is what we are basically aiming for, and I am very happy that here in Croatia we do have experienced people who can give us some help around it.
Mm-hmm. So maybe I didn't catch up with you, but those services are going to onboard one by one, or is there some kind of is SESDA some kind of proxy for those services to onboard? What is the role of SESDA?
SESDA is actually a coordinator of SHOCK project, but these tools that I was showing you in my previous slides are not necessarily all of them connected to SHOCK. And SHOCK is still ongoing project. We are our Croatian infrastructures are not directly a part of this project, but we are following their results and we are trying to be included in some of their activities. Really, I don't know what to answer you about the process of onboarding. What I was following, because this is very relevant for our CROSDA service, is the development of Dataverse software to be, and I'm showing you the page on SHOCK project now, which is about developing Dataverse software for the SHOCK or social sciences and humanities communities, and through SHOCK. But this will last for a year more, or even more. During the SHOCK project, the Dataverse will be ready for EOSC, completely ready for EOSC portal. So, and this is basically the data repository which supports all needs or metadata fields. I don't know. It will also have translations. It will support thesauruses, control vocabularies, which are in consistence with what SESDA, for instance, is requiring, because SESDA has a high requirements for us.
Just a second.
Irena is here, and Irena is from Slovenia. Irena was asking questions already on this webinar, so she can maybe add something more. This was just to
Yeah,
make you aware of this initiative.
I can see yeah, Yelena is raising a hand, but I said I write to her to write down the question, but there is nothing yet.
For some reason, I cannot see the chat window. Maybe I don't know how.
You can click on participants. On no, you can click on the chat. Do you have chat?
I can stop share my screen and then I will see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but we cannot do nothing. Irena also raised hand. Just a second to something. Okay.
Yeah, Irena is asking to open a mic for her.
Yeah. Okay. There
Yes.
is mic for her.
Thanks. I think I'm in. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks. Thanks for all the presentations and different view that is coming from the Croatian colleagues. I'm coming from ADP, which is a Slovene provider for CESDA, and I'm also heavily involved in shock.
And in Krozda, I would say.
But Alan, I think that there will be several views, and I think your colleagues can also add to that, because what we are now talking about, the marketplaces will be basically aggregators coming from different, let's say, disciplines that will, provide access to all this information. In between, because what I added in a chat is actually information about SSH Open Marketplace that has an alpha release now in June, and is expecting a beta, I think, in December. But this is the first marketplace that is coming, and it will be testing some grounds. I think after that, perhaps things in EOS will reshuffle a bit. But the idea is to keep it, yes, to keep also all the small services there. I would like to point one thing, though, that we saw through today's communication of communication of tools and services that are in the EOS to the public. So the promotion and the training on the services is important, wherever they are. Either they are something that you will prepare and promote in a country, or it will be in the cloud, especially if it's also something that can be used outside the country itself. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Irena. I made Yelena a speaker also, but I'm not sure, is she here? Yelena, could you hear us? She raised her hand. Okay. Well, I think that's it. No more questions. Maybe someone of the panelists would like to add something, or we can end this session. Hi, Jadranka.
Hi.
Would you like to say something at the end of this webinar before some of my technical things?
No, I just would like to thank you all participants and all presenters, and of course, last but not least, our moderator, Alan. And I think it was good to listen about European Open Science Cloud from the different perspectives and with different roles and with different goals. And yeah, that's okay.
Okay, thanks, Jadranka. I would also like to thank to all the speakers, and we made this change from Croatian to English last evening. Yeah.
Last night.
So last night. Many thanks to speakers that customize their presentations and present in English.
Yeah.
And
Yes, I forgot to mention this. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to thank all attendees that were here, and I would like just to ask you to fill out this feedback form. It's here. I've pasted the link. So it's few questions. It's a minute or two of your time. So I would kindly ask you to complete this form. So thank you very much once more, and see you face to face sometime.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye all.
Bye.